Okay, you may be seated. Thank you.
Yes, Your Honor, and as it relates to that, I did check with Wright, and as I expected, the photo that is on the exhibit that we were talking about is in fact the defendant's driver's license photo. We attempted to introduce the defendant's driver's license through I believe it was through Mr. Stalker. We have a picture of that driver's license, which shows the exact same picture on that driver's license that we attempted to introduce into evidence. You know, it's not that the photo was not attempted. We tried to. Counsel objected to it.
Okay, what was the exhibit with the plastic actual driver's license?
I can show the court again. It's the association chart.
And I'd like to be heard once they're down the bridge, so I have.
Okay, well I see the chart.
Photo, that is the photo that is on the driver's license that we attempted to introduce.
But what's the exhibit for the driver's license?
It was never marked because the court just said you weren't going to let us do it. We could have the witness testify to her height and weight that's shown on the driver's license, but you wouldn't let us introduce the driver's license because the defense objected because it has personal information on it.
Just so it's clear, it's the defense's position that the driver's license that they were intending to introduce is not that photo. That is a photo from a driver's license that was found in a home that they conducted a search warrant on. That's not the photo from the driver's license that was found in the car, which is the photo that they were trying to.
That actually is incorrect, Your Honor. Counsel is incorrect on that. I can show counsel and the court a photo of the driver's license that's found in the car. It was taken by Mishele Wright. If we can switch to my computer on the screen, I have that photo up right here.
Okay, just calm down a little bit because we're getting into this over talking, just one at a time. Well, if this was, I guess nobody mentioned that this was a reason to offer the photo,
This wasn't the only reason, Your Honor, and I think Ms. Wright can testify to it anyway. She obtained the photo from the official DOT website, which, you know, is self-authenticating, and so I think it can come in even without the driver's license. That wasn't the only reason we were doing it, but it certainly was on an exhibit that we wanted to offer.
And I stand corrected. I apologize. There was multiple license. There is a license that was found by Mr. Stalker. I thought they were different. I've been corrected. Just wanted to make note of that.
okay, well, thank you. And I just need to take a brief time out. Madam Clerk, can you come here for a second? Something go awry with my computer, and you know how to get that. Okay, you can proceed. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Judge, the defense position is, regardless of whether it was on.
Can you put your microphone on, please? Thank you.
Regardless of whether this is a photo from her driver's license or someplace else, I concede that, yes, it is from her driver's license. It doesn't make it relevant. Her identity is not an issue in this case, and there's been no testimony as to, I'm trying to look at the driver's license itself, when this, maybe somebody can point it out different, but I don't see a date on here as to, it was issued 6/7 of 2017, but then it says DUP, which I believe means a duplicate. So I don't know if that's an accurate identification of when the photo was taken. And it's the defense position is that's not what she looked like during the relevant times. And her appearance, especially the length of her hair, when part of what the state is, there was hair evidence, as well as I believe the state's at least made inferences that this mark on her neck was never observed by anybody else. It'd be the defense position that the length of her hair may be a reason as to why it was not observed by anybody else. And this photo shows her with really short hair, and the photos that have been introduced from Ms. Merrifield that were taken on March 24th show her with much longer hair. And so for all of those reasons, I don't believe that this photo is relevant, and I do think it is unfairly, substantially prejudicial.
All right, Mr. Dufour?
Yes, Your Honor. First off, yes, this would be the photo that had been taken that day. It is a duplicate, but her license that she had before that, which is the one that was found at her residence, shows a different picture of her than this one, and that one was issued in 2016. So it is a photo that was taken at that time, even though it's a duplicate. When you get a duplicate, they would have rephotographed her. But be that as it may, the jury has the photos of what she looked like at that time. Nobody's trying to use this photo to say that her hair wasn't longer at the time and that, her hair was, could not have potentially obscured the mark on the neck. The jury has seen those photos. They'll have those photos if they ask for them. I don't, that's up to them. But, this isn't intended to be a photo. It's just, we still have to prove her identity, and the association chart is just an attempt to show the relationships between the parties, and we put photos in just to kind of generally identify them. And outside of the photo of Alex Woodworth, which we just changed out for the in-life photo that was used, all the other photos are basically driver's license photos that were taken from the official DOT website.
All right, well, okay, I'm ready to make a ruling on this. I've had a chance to review some cases here, and basically it's within the court's discretion to admit this is demonstrative evidence, clearly, and both charts appear to be based upon evidence that's been received at trial. The photographs themselves are not offered to show the length of her hair or anything of that nature. As Mr. Dufour has indicated, there are photographs of what she looked like within a day or two of when the events in question took place. So the court believes that both of these exhibits are relevant in that they would assist the trier of fact in understanding the relationships, being able to, I guess, visually see the relationship or the people that are being referred to in this relationship. I don't see anything in either of these exhibits that appears to be prejudicial. Frankly, I don't see them as being unfairly prejudicial, especially to the extent that it would outweigh the probative value of being able to have a demonstrative exhibit to help the state tie things together. Again, this is assuming that we have the testimony from Ms. Wright that this was in fact, this was an official photograph on file of Ms. McCandless. It's not an unflattering photograph. Frankly, it's a nice photograph of Ms. McCandless, and nothing prejudicial about that. And going to the exhibit as it relates to the locations and so forth, again, the use of the term near or nearby or in the area, based upon the testimony that's been received, there's nothing misleading or untrue about that. You can, counsel for Ms. McCandless can certainly argue about that. The jury saw that evidence. This, again, is helpful to the jury to be able to sort of sum up the facts and time frames and so forth. Court is going to allow the state, assuming a foundation is laid, and Ms. Wright testifies as to putting this together. Again, it's not complex. It's not like a animation that was found to be unfairly prejudicial in the Denton case. Let's see, that was I don't don't have the site for the Denton case, but it involved, it's DENTON.
Judge, I just want to make clear a factual distinction on one of those, so when you're on, I'm not trying to re-argue it, but I don't think I made as clear as I could have one of the facts on the timeline that I should have.
Go ahead.
The chart, I believe, has a picture of the muddy dirt road that we've been talking about and has an arrival time listed on there as,
It says estimated.
it says 1:25 PM estimated time, and as Your Honor may recall, I believe Chester Davidson's testimony was somewhere other than 1:25, I believe, and I'd have to, give me a moment, I can find it, and I think that is an important fact in this case, in their own witness. Remember what witness number he actually? He said he left home at 1:30 and he would have been there at 1:35 to 1:37. And their document says 1:25, and so that's just.
And actually, Your Honor, he did say that initially. We then showed him his screenshot that he had provided to law enforcement of his times, at which time he said, yes, I said that's what I said then, but he later said in his timeline that it should be an exhibit. I can't recall the number, but in that he said at the time that he would have left home at about 1:15 and gotten there around 1:22. So there was evidence both ways. So this is not a misstatement of the evidence in the least.
All right. So again, I'm going to allow the state to use these demonstrative exhibits. And again, that's court's opinion, they are demonstrative exhibits. So
just ask that Your Honor instruct the jury what you mean then when you say they're being accepted for demonstrative, and if you could just instruct the jury what, I think we all just take that for granted, but if you could instruct them that they get to be the deciders of fact.
very well. Okay, are we ready for the?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are we going to have another break? If I need to use the bathroom, should I wait for another break, or?
Are we going to get to Investigator Proc today? So how long would Ms. Wright take?
Ms. Wright will be probably 20 minutes.
Okay, so what I suggest is we bring the jury in, we do Ms. Wright, then we take a break, and then we go on to Investigator Proc.
That's fine.
Okay, let's bring him in.
Could you tell us your name and spell your first and last name for the court reporter, please?
Mishele Wright, MISHELE WRIGHT.
How are you employed, ma'am?
I am a senior criminal analyst at the Wisconsin Department of Justice, Division of Criminal Investigation.
What is a senior criminal analyst? Basically, what do you do?
I provide analytical assistance to law enforcement agencies across the state of Wisconsin. Part of my job is taking raw data and original records and creating visual displays based off of those original records.
So you try to make sense of all of this stuff we get.
That is correct.
All right. As part of that, do you have occasion to take like downloads that we get or subpoena returns we get from places like Instagram, Google, those types of things?
Yes, I do.
And are you able to then take that raw data that we get and put it into a format that's a little bit easier to use?
Yes.
All right. So for example, we've seen a number of Instagram returns and they go kind of backwards, right?
Yes.
All right. So the most recent is the first thing on the document and the oldest is the last thing, right?
Correct.
All right. Are you able to then convert it so that it's in what we would normally use as chronological order?
Yes, I can do that.
And do you also then, can you then take like the content of it where it has like text and get rid of the rest of the gobbledygook that's in there?
Yes.
Okay. And can you also take the time? We've heard testimony about UTC time.
Yes.
All right. What is UTC time? Can you explain that for us?
Yes, that's a universal time that the world kind of observes as the time in which all time in the world is based off of that, I guess.
Okay. And are you able to convert that so that if we have a time on an Instagram return that says something happened, say at midnight UTC on a particular date, can you convert that to the time that we have here in Wisconsin?
Yes.
All right. And what's the conversion if you're dealing with Central Standard Time? Let's start with that.
Okay, so Central Standard Time would be 6 hours difference from UTC during the year, except for during daylight savings time, which is between March and November, it would be a 5-hour difference.
Okay. And we're talking about a 5-hour difference. So if it's midnight UTC, what would be the time in Wisconsin?
5 or 6 hours earlier. you would
Okay, so
subtract
either
that time.
6 or 7 o'clock.
Yes,
All right. And March 22nd of 2018, would that have been in daylight savings time or standard time?
daylight savings time.
All right. And you said you can also take and make visuals?
Yes,
All right. And in this case, were you asked to create some visuals?
yes, I was.
All right. Before we get to that, may I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
I am showing you, Ms. Wright, what has been marked for identification as exhibit number 417. Can you tell me what that is?
This is the CV that I provided, basically a summary of my education and work experience.
All right. And let's talk about just your education. What is your educational background?
I have a bachelor's degree that's actually in journalism, and then I'm currently obtaining my master's degree in criminal justice with an expected graduation date of December 2019. Yes.
All right. And where was your bachelor's degree from?
Ball State University in Indiana.
All right. And what type of experience have you had in the area of criminal analysis?
I worked a couple of years at a police department in Indiana as a crime analyst, and then I have been employed with the Department of Justice for 2.5 years.
Now, were you assigned to help in the analysis of the information that was obtained in this case?
Yes, I was.
And was one of the things that you were asked to do to take all of these, we have Instagrams, we've got text messages, we've got Facebook messages, all of that kind of stuff, and put that into just one timeline that gives us all of the communications involving the defendant?
Yes.
All right. And how do you do that, just generally?
We have software that we can import those records into, and we can run various reports off of the data that we put in.
All right. And so you can run a report that basically takes all of those different types of information and puts it into one timeline?
Yes.
All right. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes, you may. Go ahead.
So, Ms. Wright, I'm showing you what has been marked for identification as exhibit number 420. Can you tell us what exhibit 420 is?
This is the communication timeline that I created based off of the records that I received in the case.
And that basically takes all of the communications, whether they were Instagram, text messages, Facebook posts, Google, whatever, involving the defendant for the period of time that you have the records.
Yes.
All right. And puts them into chronological order in Wisconsin time.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Your Honor, again, subject to the discussions we've had, we've moved the admission of Exhibit 420 at this point in time.
All right. Again, subject to those discussions, which we'll make a record of at a later time, Exhibit 420 will be received for what it is, a compilation. And, okay,
And may I approach you, Your Honor?
you may.
Showing you, Ms. Wright, what has been marked for identification as Exhibit 421. Can you tell me what that document is?
This is part of the communication timeline that I created.
All right, and this relates to Instagram messages the night of March 21st of 2018?
Yes, that's correct.
Between Instagram accounts you understood to be the defendant and Jason Mengel?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Your Honor, I'd move the admission of Exhibit 421 at this point in time.
All right, again, subject to discussions at sidebar, Exhibit 421 will be received.
Now, Ms. Wright, in addition to that timeline that we've talked about, did you also, or were you also asked to create what's known as an association chart?
Yes.
Can you explain for the jury, please, what an association chart is?
An association chart is something that has different subjects on it to try to explain how people are related.
Okay. Showing you, may I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
Showing you what has been marked for identification as exhibit number 418, is this the association chart that you created?
Yes, it
All
is.
right. And the photographs that we see on there, let's start with, one of the photographs is a photograph of the defendant, correct?
Yes.
Where did you obtain that photograph from?
That is the driver's license photo that I obtained when I ran our time system with the DOT, Department of Transportation Records.
All right. And that's an official website of the, or it's an official record that you have access to as a criminal analyst from the Department of Transportation?
Yes, it is.
All right, and how about the photo of John Hanson?
That is also a driver's license photo.
Same location, same source?
Yes.
And Jason Mengel?
That would be a driver's license photo as well.
All right. And Alexander Woodworth, as you understand it, is the same as, if I can find Exhibit 1. That would be this photo, except you didn't have the background kind of cleaned up on it, correct?
That is correct.
All right. Your Honor, I move the admission of Exhibit 418 at this point and ask to publish it, and then I'm going to ask a few questions about it.
All right, and again, subject to objections, preserved for the record, the court will receive Exhibit 418 as a demonstrative exhibit. And ladies and gentlemen, a demonstrative exhibit is only used or will be received for assisting the counsel for the state in pulling the facts together and helping you understand the context of the various facts and circumstances. There's another one we'll be talking about here in a minute. It is not what one would consider real evidence. In other words, it's not testimony. It's like a diagram that was done of the scene of the area, for example. Data is taken, evidence from the case is taken, and it's used to help explain and pull together the facts for you as the fact finder to assist you. Now, some of the information may be a little disputed on some of those, subject to argument, but bottom line is to assist you as the fact finder. Okay?
All right. So, Ms. Wright, can you explain what you're doing here and what we're seeing in this demonstrative exhibit, this association chart?
Yes, I was asked to put the 4 subjects on the chart to explain the relationships between those subjects.
All right, and at the top is the defendant, Ezra McCandless?
Yes,
All right, and then on the bottom, we have Alex, and then Mr. Hanson in the middle, and Mr. Mengel on the other side, correct?
yes,
All right. And as you understood it, and we've heard testimony, there were relationships between these 3 males and the defendant.
yes.
All right, thank you. showing you what has been marked for identification as Exhibit 419A. Can you tell me what that is?
These are maps that I created.
All right, and so we've got A, this would be B, and this would be C? Those
Yes.
are all right. Your Honor, I move the admission of Exhibits 419A, B, and C, which I understand counsel has no objection to.
All right, exhibits 419A, B, and C will be received.
All right, let's start with 419A. Can you tell us what we're seeing in 419A?
Yes, as part of this case, I received from investigators different surveillance photos of a photo that was depicted on cameras throughout the city of Eau Claire. And along with those photos, I received times and intersections that the vehicle was seen on surveillance. And I was asked to put those photos along with the times and the intersections on a map to kind of show a timeline of where the vehicle was throughout the day.
All right, and so on 419A, it appears we have two cameras that the vehicle is seen on and the time that's related to this particular exhibit?
Yes.
All right. And there appears there are arrows. Are the arrows pointing to the actual intersection that we're talking about?
Yes.
And were you also asked to put some specific locations onto that map as well?
I was.
And what locations were those?
Can I get closer
Sure,
to it?
if you need to step down to be able to look at it.
I was asked to put Alex Woodworth's apartment at 511 Cameron Street, Racy's Coffee Lounge at 404 Riverside Avenue, and Owen Park at 501 First Avenue on this particular map.
All right, and those are all identified on there with pins, it appears?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Then moving to 419B. We have a few more locations here, but this was, again, same type of situation.
Yes.
And again, for each one, it's the arrow points to the particular location of a camera that you're talking about?
Yes.
All right. And on this one, you were asked to add another location, I believe, correct?
Yes.
And what is that location?
This was Max Martinson's apartment at 1004 Main Street.
And that's identified by a green pin?
Yes.
All right, thank you. And finally, 419C. Here's again, we have two areas where you had cameras for the time of that location.
Yes.
All right, and again, we have located on there the same three locations as the first map, that being Alex Woodworth's apartment, Racy's, and Owen Park.
Yes.
And again, the arrow points to the intersections where that vehicle was seen during the time frames that are associated with this map.
Yes.
Thank you. You also asked Ms. Wright to create a map that showed a likely or possible route from Alex Woodward's apartment to the location where his body was found.
Yes, I was.
And how did you create that map?
From Google Maps.
May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
Showing you what has been marked for identification as Exhibit 422, can you tell me what this is?
That is the map from Google that shows the route from 511 Cameron Street to East 7614 430th Avenue.
Your Honor, I move the admission of Exhibit 422 at this point in time.
Any objection to 422?
No, Your Honor.
All right, exhibit 422 will be received.
All right. Now, showing you this, explain, and you know, I don't use Google Maps too much. How does Google Maps work?
So you can put in a starting point and an ending point, and it'll show you how long it takes to get from point A to point B, along with the directions. And then in this case, it gave one alternate route.
All right. And so what is the, on the right-hand side of that is 511 Cameron Street?
Yes,
And you have that labeled?
yes.
All right. And then there's a red dot on the left-hand side. What is that?
That's the ending location.
All right. And it appears that there is a direct route and there's quite a bit less direct route. Is that fair?
Yes,
All right. And so the one that's in dark blue, is that the direct route?
yes, it is.
And what is the distance and the estimated time?
Can I get closer?
Yes, absolutely.
The direct route is 20 minutes, and it's showing 13.5 miles.
Okay. And as far as those times, 20 minutes, and you've worked with Google Maps regularly in your work.
Yes.
Are those estimates or are those, I mean, spot on, it's going to take exactly 20 minutes?
Those are estimates based on traffic and whatever else may affect travel time.
All right, thank you. May I approach your honor?
You may.
I'm showing you what has been marked for identification as Exhibit 424. Can you tell me what this is?
This is a timeline of events that I was asked to create for March 22nd, 2018.
All right. Your Honor, I'd move the admission of Exhibit 424, and then I'm going to have a few questions after I'm done with it.
All right. Again, Exhibit 424, subject to objections that have been made and maybe a further record if necessary, but that will be received.
And may I publish, Your Honor?
You may.
Thank you. All right, so Ms. Wright, it might be easier if you step down on this. I'm just going to ask you a couple questions. How did you create this? Let's start with that.
Okay, I received all of these photos, with the exception of the police car right here. I received all of the other photos during the investigation, as well as the different events that are on the timeline are from police reports or video surveillance times or 911 calls.
Okay, and is this, in other words, is this timeline, the distance between the events, does that match up with, you know, an equivalent amount of time? In other words, you know, I'm not asking this very well, but are they proportionate to the actual time between events?
Yes, they are. Our software that we use to create timelines, it has the capability to, when we put the times in, that it makes the times and events on there proportionate to when they occurred.
So the distance between, for example, the second last entry, which is estimated 125, and the last entry, which I believe is 4:15 p.m., that would be proportionate as far as how long that would be in relation to the other times on there.
Yes, it is.
All right, great. And then the photos, some of these are some of the same surveillance photos that we saw on the earlier mapping.
Yes.
All right. And the times that you included on there were the times that the vehicle was seen at one of those surveillance cameras?
Yes.
All right. All right. Thank you. Showing you what is remarked for identification is exhibit number 423. Can you tell me what that is?
This is a frequency report based off of the Instagram records associated with Ezra and McCandless for March 21st, 2018.
And when you say a frequency report, is this the total number of messages that were sent on Instagram by the defendant on that date?
This would include sent and received.
Okay, so sent and received, the top line appears to be, it says participant name Ezra McCandless, and then has a number. Is that the number that she sent, or is that the number that she sent and received total?
Sent and received total.
Okay, and the next line is the Instagram account that's related to Jason Mengel. Is that the total number that he sent and received, or just the total number that he sent and received that are associated with the defendant?
These would include, these are just the sent and received messages that Ezra received or sent
Okay.
to the DOC WOOF.
And then for the other, there are 3 other individuals on there. That would be the total number that those 3 other individuals sent and received on that date, with the defendant?
Yes.
Okay. And so Your Honor, I'd move the admission of Exhibit 423 and ask to publish it.
Any objection to 423?
No, Your Honor.
All right, Exhibit 423 will be received.
So, looking at this, the top line you said is the total number of messages sent and received by the defendant on March 21st of 2018, correct?
Yes.
And that is how many?
637.
And how many of those were to the Instagram account associated with Jason Mengel, which would be the next line?
There were 561 incoming and outgoing.
All right. And to example 2,
73.
to Sailor Ray 19,
2.
and to, I can't read that one, I'm sorry, I'm getting too old. I think it's Trinidad Donaldson.
1.
Okay, thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Right, any cross-examination, Mr. Nelson?
Want to maybe go in reverse order, but talk about Exhibit 423, this frequency report for March 21st, 2018, okay?
Okay.
Do you need to see it, or you're with me?
I guess it depends.
All right. Yeah, that's fine. I don't know that we need to put it up there, but I'll give it to you and we can go.
Okay.
You've got Exhibit 423 in your hand now.
Yes, I do.
And so, again, there's a big number, 637 total sent and received for Ms. McCandless in this 24-hour period. Is that right?
That's correct.
You don't know how many of those were received, correct?
Correct.
So again, I think we know that this isn't the case, but it could be, based upon this chart, that she received 636 and she only sent 1, correct?
Yes.
It could be that she received 1 and she sent 636.
Yes.
Or it could be any combination of whatever thousands different combinations in between that, correct?
Yes.
This chart doesn't say what she did, it just says what her account's activity was, correct?
Correct.
And you don't know what the content is from the standpoint of if any of those sent and received was 1 letter, 2 letters, a whole sentence, a paragraph. You don't know that, correct?
Not without looking at the original.
Sure, you'd have to
Return.
go through all 637 of them to see what that is, correct?
Correct.
Or if one's simply a, I can't remember what it is, emoji or emoticon or something along those lines, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you were only asked to do this for this one day, correct?
Yes.
You don't have one for March 20th,
No.
or for February 20th,
No.
or for January 20th,
No.
or for any other day.
No.
So as you sit here right now, you don't know whether this is typical or not typical. Agreed?
Correct.
All right. This is just one particular day. That's the activity that one person had on their Instagram account.
Yes.
You don't know what most 20-year-olds do on a typical day on Instagram, I imagine?
Objection, Your Honor. It calls for speculation and
It
relevance.
doesn't. My question was, does she know?
Overrule the objection. Go ahead.
Fair to say you don't know what most 20-year-olds do on a typical day on Instagram, agreed?
I do not know.
Okay. And I imagine it varies for each individual. Oh, I suppose you don't know, so you couldn't say that. Fair enough. The association chart I wanted to ask you about, that was the one where we had the picture of Ms. McCandless on the top, correct?
Yes,
And then you made a choice to put her on the top and these three men below her, correct?
yes,
That was a choice you made, correct?
yes, I believe
You
so.
got data, so to speak, right?
Yes,
You got data from the prosecution team, correct?
yes,
They gave that to you and said, make a display out of this, correct?
yes,
You could have made it in a box,
yes,
could have made it in a circle,
yes,
could have made it in a horizontal line
yes,
or a vertical line. Probably lots of other things that are more creative than the things that I'm thinking of right now. Agreed?
okay.
Do
Yes.
you agree?
Yes,
You made a choice for whatever reason to put her up there on the top, correct?
to show how she was related to all three
Sure.
of
But
the other subjects.
The relation, you
Yes.
could have put in a different geometrical shape, agreed?
Yes,
Different display, correct?
yes,
You didn't mean to imply anything by her being on top and these men being under. You just got the data and you put it on a sheet so we could all see it, correct?
yes,
There's many different ways to do that, right?
yes.
Objection asked and answered. Now,
Sustained, sustained, sustained.
I appreciate that. So you're getting data and displaying data, but you're not offering opinions. Fair to say?
That's correct.
Okay. Same thing, on that association chart, you also talked about devices, is that right?
Yes,
There was under each person, you had a list of number of devices, correct?
yes,
And that was a list that was provided to you by the prosecution team, correct?
yes, it was.
And is it your understanding that those are the devices that were collected, for perhaps a lack of a better term?
Yes,
You have no idea whether any of those people have more devices than what were collected, do you?
I don't know.
And you don't know what condition those devices were, whether they're in working order or not working order, correct?
Correct.
You're just saying, here's the basically digital devices that were collected based upon the information that's been provided to you,
Yes.
correct? And then on that, there's also a photo of, I get exhibit 635 and exhibit 636. Judge, I'm going to make reference to exhibit 635 and 636, both of which have already been marked and introduced.
All right,
Permission to display.
you may.
Your Honor, can we approach, and I'd ask
If
that.
I didn't know it was, I literally just put it there. I meant to, I apologize. I didn't mean it to be blown up like that, so
But I do want to,
that's fine. I just want to know that I didn't mean it to be blown up
no,
like that.
I'm not assuming anything.
Ms. Wright, you've made the association chart here. Can you see that from where you're at?
Yes,
Okay. You need it closer, let me know.
okay.
Well, let's do this. I'll just put it up there. Can you see it when it's up here, or is it better to see it there? What would you?
Better back there.
Okay. So, in the photo that you chose to put this photo on the chart to represent Ms. McCandless, is that right?
Yes,
You don't know the length of Ms. McCandless's hair on the data in question, do you?
I don't know.
Just again, to display Exhibit 635. This has been previously admitted as a photo taken on the day of March 22nd, 2018. And then Exhibit 636, the second photo taken of Ms. McCandless on March 22nd, 2018.
Okay,
Do you agree that the hair in the two photos, 636 and 635, are much different than the length of the hair in the picture that you chose? Is that right?
it appears on the photo in the chart that her hair is shorter.
And that their hair in the photos that I have in my hand is several inches longer, agreed?
Yes.
Okay. You were asked some questions about Exhibit 419A, B, and C, is that right?
Yes.
And that's the maps that I have here with me now, is that right?
Yes.
I just want to make sure that I'm accurate. Here on 4, let's take them in order. Well, I'm going to ask you a summary question. Let me know if you need to look at any of them. But
Okay.
would you agree that the times on all of these exhibits, 419C, 419B, and 419A, the times indicating the location of the vehicle in these exhibits are all prior to noon on March 22nd, 2018. Agreed?
Yes.
You were not asked, you don't have photos to make a display of where the vehicle was after that, correct?
Correct.
You made a timeline of matters that include moments after 12 o'clock, is that right?
Can you repeat the question?
You made this timeline for moments that occurred after 12 o'clock on March 22nd, agreed?
Yes.
And you had said there's space in here, the pictures are represented in space relative to time. Agreed?
Yes.
And so, take for instance, this area here, there's a big, huge white space, right?
Yes.
There is a gap in time, correct?
Yes.
A gap in time that you don't know what happened, agreed?
That's correct.
Those are the only questions I have.
All right, any redirect?
Just a couple. As it relates to the association chart, why did you choose to make it in the format that you did?
Because Ezra was related or connected to all three of the other subjects. So typically whoever's kind of the center or related to other people on the chart, we would put that person at the top in the center.
Okay.
To show how everyone else on the chart is related or connected to that subject.
And as far as the photo that you chose to take, first off, what do you generally use for a photo on association charts?
The driver's license photos.
All right. Was it intended to show the length of the defendant's hair or just a general picture of what she looks like?
Just a general photo.
All right. Thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Any recross?
This is going to be loud, I apologize. Apologize, counsel, but I'm going to put this right here. Can you still see this, Mr. DeFore?
I can see it.
If you don't, if you can't, just let me know.
Yeah.
Can you see
Thank you.
that, Ms. Wright?
Yes.
So you'd said you'd made the chart based upon people's connections, correct?
Yes.
Do you know how Jason Mengel is connected to everybody?
Only to Ezra.
Okay, that's what your understanding was.
Yes.
So if there's evidence that Jason has a connection to Ezra, John, and Alex, you could just as well have made a chart that would be representative of what I just drew, correct?
Yes,
But you didn't have that information because nobody gave you that information, correct?
that's correct.
Yeah, I could probably go through different variables. If you'd have known that Jason here, I could put John and make arrows to somebody else. In that situation, we could have put somebody else at the top, right?
Yes,
But the same for Alex, correct?
yes,
It all depends upon the information that's provided to you, correct?
yes,
And the information that's provided to you is Ezra knew all three of these other people, but there was no other connections that connected these four people together.
yes.
Okay. That's all. Thanks.
Okay, all right, Ms. Wright, thank you. I think you may step down. And is Ms. Wright free to leave?
Yes, Your Honor.